One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what is my favorite manual of arms for a handgun, or a concealed carry gun to be more specific? Well, if you take a look in my safe, you're going to notice one thing about most of these guns. Most of them have a hammer. And there's a reason most of them have a hammer. It's because I like double action, single action. Now, some of these are single action only, and even a couple of them are, double action only. But most of them are double action, single action. I really like double action, single action firearms. In fact, the only two handguns in this safe that don't have a hammer are that MPA and that Beretta Neos that my oldest son uses at the range. So as you can see, I like hammer-fired double-action, single-action guns. And there's a reason why I like hammer-fired double-action, single-action guns. So what is it I like so much about double-action, single-action hammer-fired guns? Well, it's pretty much the second part of that, the single-action. I like a nice, crisp, clean, light trigger. You don't need to put hardly any pressure on the trigger whatsoever. It makes for a really accurate, easy shot. Just gives you the best chance at accuracy that you could possibly have with a firearm. So I love a nice single action crisp trigger. Now on double action, single action, you will have double action at first unless you manually cock the hammer, but you do have the option to manually cock the hammer. Now, since it's the single action I like so much, a lot of people will say, well, why don't I simply go with a single action gun, like a 1911? Well, I like 1911s, and I love the trigger pull on a 1911, but there's one problem: the safety. You have to remove the safety to fire the gun, and you can't carry it hammer down with the safety off or it won't fire. So I hate to have to take a safety off. I will not have a gun that I have to remove a safety for self-defense. If I have to pull my gun, I want to be able to just yank it out and pull the trigger. I don't have to think about anything. Now I know you can train yourself to remove the safety every time, but I've seen people that have trained for a long time on their guns forget that safety under stress drills. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could possibly ever forget to remove a safety, so I won't carry this gun, even though I love the single action trigger, because of the safety and because of its inability to be carried with the hammer down in a double action mode. Well, then people will say, well, if your biggest concern is being able to just draw the gun quickly and just pull the trigger, why don't you go with a striker fired gun like a Smith & Wesson M&P or a Glock or something similar to that? Well, these do have the ability to just be drawn and fired. You just pull them, pull the trigger, and it's a nice consistent trigger pull from shot to shot. It's the same all the way through. But the problem with these striker fired guns is I've never found one that has a good enough trigger to give me that accuracy I need, or that accuracy that I really want. They're always a little bit stiff, a little bit gritty. They're just never the best triggers. They just don't compare to a nice, light, crisp, single action trigger. I mean, they are a double action striker fired, so they just don't have that single action trigger that I really want so much. So when you sum it all up, that's kind of why I go with the double action, single action. It gives me more options. It gives me the option of having that light, crisp trigger pull that I like so much, but I don't have to have a safety. But I will have to add one thing. I just said I don't carry a striker fire because I never found one that had an adequate trigger. Well, that may have just changed. I may have found a gun that just might change everything I just told you. It might make it all a moot point. So pay attention in the next couple of days. I'll probably be showing you what that gun is, doing an in-depth review of it, because I found a gun that just might change the way I think about triggers altogether. You ain't even my real dad.